Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nugget News. Today I want to talk about altcoins. There's so many questions coming in and people talking about alt season on social media. So I'm going to give you a rundown of previous cycles and the different altcoins that survived and those that didn't, how I see the next cycle playing out, and the takeaways we can learn from the last cycle. We're also going to touch on the listings that have taken place and how I think that's going to affect things. So let's get into it. And 2017 was the biggest altcoin cycle, but it certainly wasn't the first. And ever since Bitcoin had established itself and blockchain technology was understood, we had, copycat coins, or those that slightly tweaked features. So a few examples are, Peercoin introducing proof of stake for the first time, Feathercoin or Litecoin with their, faster block times. And then we had Namecoin with human readable addresses. So you could send your coin to Nuggets News. And now we see plenty of new projects that are implementing that. Another one that I FOMO'd into was Aurora Coin that was meant to be the official coin of Iceland and everyone was going to get it airdropped, and that never really took place. So a bit of FOMO there. But we can learn a lot of lessons from those. Now, there are coins that have been around for a few years and survived. So I think Flow is a great example of one that has got no hype and no one's even aware of it, but they're doing some pretty good things. T0 recently announced that they're going to be integrating Flow. Next, MadeSafe, Fertcoin, a lot of these coins are still around and they've got good communities and they have appreciated in price. Now, even some of the older coins, maybe they still went up in price, but when you consider the crypto market cap grew 100 or 1,000-fold, some of these dud coins might have gone up, tenfold thanks to their pairing to Bitcoin on certain exchanges. So I wouldn't really consider that, thriving, but maybe they're still around. And a lot of the time, the market cap on coin market cap is pretty misleading because it's just the last price that someone paid. Some of these coins have had no volume at all for years. So if anyone actually tried to sell their bag that they're still holding, there's rarely any buyers. And that brings me to the next point I want to talk about with the old projects, current projects, and future projects. One of my sayings has always been, who's on the other side of the screen? So if you want your coin to go up in price, well, who is buying it off you? Who's paying more? And even at these low prices, yes, it looks like it's better value because it's down 90%, but who is stepping in and saying, oh, wow, that's a good project, they're doing good things, I'm going to buy it off you. So picture yourself, and there's coins out there where, I won't name names, but 99% are bag holders, retail investors. There's no use case. The fundamentals aren't coming into play, what the token was meant to be used for. And that's when things will naturally look after themselves in the future when these good projects do have true token utility. So the next thing I want to talk about is all those delistings that have taken place. And recently Binance cracked down on certain coins and US customers. We've seen Bittrex and KuCoin delisting a lot of coins. Now, some of that concern is around whether or not they may be securities. We also know about the US customer side of things. Some privacy coins have been delisted. So again, this is really hurting a lot of those coins because at the moment, the truth is the majority of coins are driven by speculation and traders. There's a lot of money out there. There's a lot of Bitcoin whales that enjoy flipping altcoins and trading altcoins. A lot of these projects haven't really established themselves and haven't generated revenue. So we are speculating on future use case, just like we do with penny stocks or IPOs in the tech world. Plenty of big tech companies out there like Amazon didn't generate a profit for years and years. And we sort of, we're guessing what they're going to be worth in the future if they keep expanding. And that's very much how a lot of crypto projects are positioned. So will this really hurt Binance, Binance token, a lot of these projects? It remains to be seen. So US customers are only about 20%, I think, by number, but around 50% by the trading volume. So whether or not they're all going to use VPNs, if a few of them are going to switch over to Binance DEX, and yes, they can't access Binance DEX from the .org website, but if it's integrated into, say, Trust Wallet and you're a US customer, there's plenty of ways around it to use Binance DEX as a US customer that aren't being geo-blocked. So yeah, Binance might pick up some of that slack on their decentralized exchanges, and maybe people will move to these other exchanges, because that is another piece of the puzzle that changes. Poloniex, there's even exchanges I can't remember the name of that were the only place to buy and trade altcoins back in 2013 and 14, and they fall by the wayside, and then Binance sprung up out of nowhere, and now they're an absolute powerhouse. So maybe the next big exchange looks very different going forward, and Binance have really hurt themselves. They have stepped up with margin trading, so maybe those volumes pick up, particularly now people can literally trade bigger sizes and they get more fees. Maybe that increases the BNB token burn and their revenues. So they're always inventing new things, and pretty creative of them. So yeah, they've done a lot right. BNB's been a fantastic investment, and I think there's a few other interesting exchange tokens out there that I'm looking to do reviews on fairly soon, because they've got better trading engines, a better user experience, better products, and I actually think one of them is going to be a big winner, so stay tuned for that video. Now, the other thing that I really want to focus on is the importance of where your coin can literally be purchased or traded. So I keep talking about the large cap coins are going to see money flow into them. And there's nothing more true than Bitcoin as the number one coin with the largest market cap, that it can absorb more value. And as it gets a higher and higher value, it is seen as an asset class similar to gold in some ways for some people. I'm not going to dive into all the things that make Bitcoin valuable today, but that gives super wealthy a chance to park some money there. Because at the moment, if you're a multi-billionaire, you can't put a lot of money into Bitcoin without the price absolutely mooning. Someone like that is going to choose gold if there's a reason for them to seek safe haven, for example. So the same goes for as we go down the list. I always think that money is going to flow into the large cap coins. They've got, a track record. Some of them do have revenue, like Binance, and they're very provable utility. We're seeing index products come out not only on exchanges but now on Wall Street, and there's going to be these baskets of currencies that people say, I just want exposure to the top 10, top 20, and that automatically just sees money flow into those large cap projects. As you go down the list, you've got to be very careful with those small cap alts and ICOs, and I've spoken about the risk to reward. So I did a video portfolio structure, and there's no right answer, but you have to be aware that if you're all small cap altcoins, that is super risky compared to someone that's 100% Bitcoin. And maybe Bitcoin still gives tremendous returns, but people chasing alts are obviously seeking higher returns, 100x in short periods of time. But that all comes with the appropriate risk to reward. So what exchanges are they on? Are they going to get more customers and plenty of trading volume to even survive until they get out their working product? And that is the next point about how token utility should be the most important thing. So at the moment, it's all speculation and trading, but particularly some of the smaller projects that I've covered that I think are solving good real world issues, I don't really care what exchange they're on or how much trading volume they have. Some of them have even been delisted recently. Exchanges have these rules. If there's less than $10,000 average daily volume, they automatically get delisted, things like that. So I'm not too fussed, because if I actually see that they are making progress, building partnerships, some of these have already got revenue and you wouldn't even know about them. They're not in the top 1,000. And that directly leads to use of that token and more utility. So that will increase it in value over time. So I don't care if it's on no exchanges, because there's still plenty of people buying and putting pressure on that. The basics of supply and demand should say that that's going to succeed over time. So the final thing I want to talk about is the greater cycles, and people are very scared that their altcoins have gone down, and it's been a year now. But remember, when people first invested in Bitcoin, it was super speculative. We didn't know that this was all going to work. It took many, many years for it to have these great returns. For me, again, investing in Ethereum, I bought a lot of ETH at $20, and then the DAO happened, and I watched it fall 80%, and I had a lot of conviction, and I bought more, at $6. So I saw that as an opportunity because I believed in the fundamentals, not just because the price was down. And that took a couple of years for Ethereum to get past that and really develop. So it's the same for all these projects. Too many people think investing is easy. They're a year or two into their journey and they're saying, why aren't I rich? I've always said that investing is not that easy. You're going to get shaken out. You're going to have losers. It's about learning from those mistakes and hopefully building a nice balanced basket or portfolio to have plenty of winners over the long term. So how do these cycles work? And it's the basics of fear versus greed, but very much at the moment, there's a lot of influences out there, and there's no doubt that that affects things. The big accounts on Twitter or YouTube are doing paid reviews and all pushing one coin. We see it time and time again. It goes up, and then next month, everyone's forgotten about it, and it gives back a lot of that price. Particularly with IEOs being the new hot thing lately. Binance pushed them out, and they've got a big presence on social media. It really worries me what's going to happen a year, 2 years, 3 years down the track when the other 90% of those tokens are being put into the market and they only ever sold 10% or less, and that gives it a falsely inflated price. So huge downwards pressure on the price, and maybe that's another thing that leads people to have a bad taste in their mouth towards Binance in the future. So in terms of that altcoin cycle, I think it is not genuinely going to take off in a meaningful way until Bitcoin does pass all-time highs and we get a new complete wave of retail investors in that go on the same journey that you did, where they find their favorite projects, and the ones that are making progress, have good news, they're the ones that people are going to get excited about. It's not going to be as simple as, hey, here's this idea and this white paper. I think we've actually learned a little bit more than that. Maybe not, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's going to be a complete mania all over again, with all their friends holding their bags, shilling their bags to the next wave of friends that are getting into the market. But personally, I think that there's every chance that the top 10 or so coins do really well and kind of are dragged up with Bitcoin to some degree. I think that the projects with good fundamentals that are making progress and are clearly standing out are going to do well. And that means there might be a few dozen projects that really boom rather than 100 or 1,000 that we saw in 2017. But let me know what you guys think of that below. Finally, a lot of people are trying to time this market and trade the market, and it is very hard to do if you are new to this and you don't know what you're doing. So a lot of the time I like to try and get ahead of big news events or things, fundamentals that I know are going to get into the public eye and cause a big rise in price. And if you're not good at that, you don't have the time to do that, hopefully I can help you a little bit. But too many people are trying to time the market, where if you're in a good project, nobody could have guessed that Bitcoin was going to go to $1,000 in 2013, then drop back to 200, or that ETH was going to go from 20 back to 6 and then up to 1,000. So it's not really about trying to time the market. It's about being in there and holding on to a project if you believe in it. And this is a risky space. 99% of projects are going to fail. So you shouldn't put in more than you can afford to lose, and all those usual things. So yes, I think exchanges do play a role and pairings are important, but for me long term, it's very much fundamentals, and at the moment they don't really count for a lot, but I believe that is very much going to change in the future. And then those human emotions of FOMO and greed take over once the good projects start to take off and people look at their blockfolio and their crappy altcoins aren't moving, and then they finally bite the bullet, sell them all and chase the good projects or buy some Bitcoin. So you've just got to be prepared for all that. I'm a big believer that ultimately sentiment drives the market. At the moment, sentiment's pretty bad towards altcoins. A lot of them are making lows against Bitcoin. I'm not too fussed what Bitcoin dominance does, because Bitcoin dominance has dropped from 100% back in the day to around 60%. Some people see that as a failure, but the price has increased tremendously, and Bitcoin is trying to be money and finance a payment system. Whereas these other projects are disrupting all the different industries. And that's how I've tried to set up my portfolio. So I don't even think it's fair to compare them in the market cap and see who's winning or who's better. These things are all going to grow. This is an entire new asset class. I believe there's going to be plenty of winners. So I hope you guys have enjoyed my thoughts on altcoins. If you've liked this presentation and you want to know more about my portfolio and the way I see things playing out, obviously we have our members area to join as well. So thanks for tuning in. Smash that like button, share this video around, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll talk to you again soon. Cheers.